Hi, this is Border Crossings. I'm Larry London, and on today's show, we are joined by one of the newest names in pop. It's Noah Parker. Playing piano since he was 10, under the influence of his father, a New York City jazz pianist, Noah grew up influenced by a variety of sounds from the Allman Brothers to Kanye West. He admits as a kid he probably spent 8 out of 10 minutes listening to music. Noah had the benefit of a well-known uncle in music from the new wave band The Fix, Cy Curnin. Noah said he would exchange ideas and accept input from the singer that scored hits like One Thing Leads to Another, Saved by Zero, and Deeper and Deeper. Noah Parker is in the process of completing his debut CD, and for today, he joins us for a preview. Border Crossings with Noah Parker is coming your way next. Hi, I'm Larry London, and welcome to Border Crossings. Today, we have a up-and-coming pop star in our studios. He's a songwriter. He's been working hard on his debut album, which he has plans to release in the very near future. We'd like to welcome Noah Parker to Washington and to the Voice of America.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's great to see you and to have you here. And first of all, I want to go to your background. You learned, I guess, jazz and classical music on the piano when you were 10, and your father was into jazz music. So how did you end up in pop?
He was because he was in jazz music to some extent. You always want to rebel a little bit, but the skill set that he taught me, learning keys with him at 10 years old, for somebody of that quality, those kinds of experiences never leave you. And I knew from then on I wanted to be in music, but I sort of stayed around the periphery, unfortunately, for a little while before really sinking my teeth into it. And
so you decided it was going to be pop. At what point, after you learned to play, classical music on the piano, did you decide, all right, let's change this up a bit?
It was never a single decision. It was, I loved pop music, and the kinds of songs that I was writing more and more towards the beginning of what became my real career were pop-oriented songs. So I wanted to produce them not like jazz songs and not like Americana, but like real pop songs. And so you like John Mayer, you like artists like that. Is that the lane that you kind of find yourself in? Would you compare yourself to an Ed Sheeran, a John Mayer, those kinds of? I would only hope to compare myself to people of those caliber, but yes, I would definitely say along those lines. The thing is, with both of those artists, they experiment and they move around, and they don't want to say like, this is my sound and it's going to be my sound forever, and I don't want that to be part of what I'm saying here either. But yes, without a doubt, I would be more than happy to have a tenth of their careers.
And you decided on music late. I was reading in your bio that this was what was initially your career choice.
So I was a film major in college, strangely enough. And the skill set's coming in handy to some extent. I directed my first music video, but I thought that I was going to be a screenwriter. It was always going to be writing on some level, but I thought that I was either going to write screenplays, I was going to direct, I was going to do something along those lines. Music was always a part of my life, but it was sort of in the background for a long time, and mostly because people do not say you can be a musician the same way that they say, oh, you might be able to be a director, you might be able to be a screenwriter, something along those lines. It's like a musician. Nobody's a musician. Don't try that.
And I guess you wrote poetry too.
I did.
That's very helpful in the songwriting process.
For me, it was sort of the basis of the entire thing. The original songs that I wrote were all just poetry that I had tweaked here and there a little bit to try to make it coherent. And you realize going on, it's a very different art form, poetry to songwriting, and they're very interconnected, but they're not the same thing. So I had to sort of relearn how to write poetry for the guitar.
Now, did you decide on the poetry and the music because you wanted to get the girls? I mean, that's what most artists always say. I get the girls if I'm in music and songwriting and such. Did that have anything to do with it at all?
Nobody ever says, I want to write poetry alone and that'll get me the girls. Let me assure you, that definitely did not begin that way. And my dad, to some extent, is my idol because of his level of ability, and he wasn't doing it for girls either. So that wasn't, I hope, that wasn't what I was aiming for in the beginning either.
And does he support the pop choice you made, or would he rather you pursue jazz or whatever?
He's a good enough father to not say is the probable answer.
Okay.
Yes, I think he would. The first concert he ever took me to was Pat Metheny. So
jazz at heart.
It was definitely a jazz background upbringing, but he definitely listens to pop music. Loved it from his era. So he doesn't have. There's not some sort of multi-generational rift going on where he's like, "How dare you?"
So does the songwriting come easy for you? I mean, is the songs just come in groups, or is it a harder process to come up with songs?
I've done everything under the sun. I've had songs that took years and years to write to the point where I wanted it to be, to the point where I said, okay, this is ready for a studio. And I've had songs that come out in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I wish I could tell listeners what my process was beforehand, afterwards, if I could make that easier for other songwriters, because it was hard for me in the beginning as well, but I have no idea. And
the songs that you write, are they about your life or other people as you observe them?
I do both. The original, I think for any young songwriter, you have to write about yourself to begin with. If you try to play a character too much, it gets lost a little bit. But then immediately after, you start realizing, okay, well, I can start seeing things from different perspectives. I can start writing songs from, different viewpoints, which is what I have done.
Well, Noah Parker is here in our studios, and you got the guitar, so that means you're going to play. So we're going to put you to work.
All right.
I want to hear a song. Tell me about this song.
This song is Fight the Feeling. It was sort of one of the original pop songs that I had written. This is one of the famous 2-year guys that it takes a long, long time to slowly but surely come to the right progression with it. It started off as a classic Bob Dylan, like 40 verses, something along those lines, and got whittled down piece by piece into something that felt like a coherent pop song. So it's something I'm really proud of.
And what's it called?
Fight the Feeling.
All right. Here's Noah Parker, Fight the Feeling.
I borrowed all of this fake affection to prove something to you. But when I saw your cold reflection, I knew it had left a wound. There's no use to grasp to the fraying hands of a root. If this is the last, let's head for the red line. Tell me, what will it prove? Oh yeah, come on, fight the feeling that it's broken, that it's gone. And come on, fight the feeling till it sinks into your bones. Come on, fight the feeling, I know you already know. Come on, fight the feeling, fight the feeling, fight the feeling. Come on, fight the feeling, fight the feeling, fight the feeling. And I tried to banish these harsh emotions consuming all of me. Oh, I tried pretending that all is forgiven. I will never believe. There's no use to grasp to the fraying hands of a root. If this is the last, let's head for the red line. Tell me, what will it prove? Oh yeah, come on, fight the feeling that it's broken, that it's gone. And come on, fight the feeling till it sinks into your bones. Come on, fight the feeling, I know you already know. Come on, fight the feeling, fight the feeling, fight the feeling. Come on, fight the feeling, fight the feeling, fight the feeling. If it hurts, fight the feeling. And if you're falling, fight the feeling. When every word you've yet to say feels like there are mountains in your way, fight the feeling, fight the feeling, fight the feeling. Oh yeah, come on, fight the feeling that it's broken, that it's gone. And come on, fight the feeling till it sinks into your bones. Come on, fight the feeling, I know you already
Sounds great. Noah Parker.
Thank you.
Fight the feeling. There it is. Now, so I read where you said that the songwriting process wasn't so easy for some of the music that you were writing.
No, it definitely wasn't. I hadn't grown up around songwriting in any way, shape, or form, so it was a process that I had to find out completely by myself. And I tried to do, classes in it or with my friends or something like that, but it's an intensely personal process. And you have to be at a moment in your life when it is to some level cathartic for you to sit down with a pencil and paper, which is how I do all my writing, and to need to get out songs at some point. Because in the beginning, if you try to artificially push it through, it won't come off as authentic to anyone. And good songwriting has to be authentic.
Can you remember where the strangest place was a song came to you? I mean, you didn't have a pencil and a piece of paper with you at a moment.
Interesting. So these days you can do an iPhone and you can hum it piece by piece. And I would say the weirdest one would have to be an airport bathroom.
I hear that a lot.
Do you really?
Yes, that's common.
And yeah, I can only imagine what people around the bathroom thought of me humming this strange tune while you have the the water running and people doing the hand soap and the whole thing, and I'm sitting there humming a song. They must have thought I was crazy.
Now, you worked with a duo that are Grammy-winning production duo,
the Cartoons,
and so they've worked with a lot of different artists. What did they bring in? Because as a young songwriter, you create your music, and then all of a sudden, here comes somebody else on the outside to say, "I want more of this and less of this, and can you do that?" And that sad song, well, we're going to make it a happy song. And you say, well, this isn't what was going on in my head when I wrote it.
So you half answered the question, which is that they let the process and they let the music speak for itself. And I'd gone to two producers prior to this where they said, oh, you got a voice, you got an acoustic guitar, let's do this like Room for Squares by John Mayer, or let's do this by 100 other acoustic songwriters. And I said, no, I hear a pop sound, you have to try to mold it to what I'm feeling as well. And the minute I walked into Emil and Keith's office, I knew right away that they understood where I was coming from and what I wanted those songs to convey.
So here's a tough question for you, maybe hard to answer. What makes Noah Parker unique and different from John Mayer, Ed Sheeran, all of the male singer-songwriter guitar players right now?
Well, I would hope that some of and I don't have an EDM background by any stretch of the imagination, but I grew up, when I say pop music, to some extent with also the electronic stuff. Daft Punk was an enormous influence that maybe John Mayer loves Daft Punk. It's easily possible, but I definitely don't hear it in the music. I don't hear these big drops that you're hearing today, stuff along those lines.
The Weeknd, he works with Daft Punk. Yeah.
Well, he's terrific. He's absolutely terrific. And it's those kinds of sounds that I was going for right off the bat. But I wasn't willing to sacrifice the depth that you get from the lyrics of acoustic songwriting, which John Mayer, obviously, and Ed Sheeran have in spades.
Right.
So I wanted to try to see if I could marry those two, and I can only hope that other people find it unique.
Do you use a loop pedal or any of that stuff?
I have used a loop pedal. Then I saw YouTube videos of Ed Sheeran's dominance with a loop pedal, and I said to myself, you know what?
Not going to touch that.
If Roger Federer is playing tennis, I'll pick a different sport.
So I also read where you talked about music is a different business than it used to be, and it's a kind of harder to sell albums these days, which everybody in the record company business knows that albums are harder to sell. So you've just decided to release a series of singles, but ultimately you're going to get to an album. And are we close to that?
We are very close to that, in that the vast majority of them are done. But you are right that I'm trying to marry both worlds, that I understand people don't have the patience, especially with new artists, to listen to 10 songs. They're just not going to do it, which is no fault to the listener. I do it myself. I want to hear your best work, and then I'll get involved with your deep cuts. But my hope is ultimately to have a cohesive form of art, which I still view the album as the form of art. And I want to have something that's a cohesive statement in and of itself, not just a bunch of singles.
Have you picked a name for the debut album?
I haven't. I keep oscillating between 4 or 5 that I won't.
Come on, let us know.
I will not
Come
share.
on.
I will not share on this.
We'll keep it between us.
Yeah.
Well, Noah Parker's our guest today, and is there a tour in the plans?
Most definitely in the plans. We are putting together a live band as we speak, back in Los Angeles, and putting together some great musicians and trying to get showcases to begin with, just to get your feet wet, because it's obviously a band I haven't fully formed yet.
Sure.
And then a tour is definitely in our near future.
Anybody you want to collaborate with on the upcoming debut album?
I would love nothing more than a John Mayer solo. It's funny you brought that up, but I would love nothing more than a John Mayer solo on one of my albums.
Wow.
But he's in a little bit of high demand.
How about Selena Gomez and things like that,
That would be terrific, but I didn't grow up listening to Selena Gomez. And I would obviously... Anybody who brings something unique to the table and enhances your art is somebody I'm more than happy to have on the album. But then there's a different strata for people who you've grown up worshiping, as I'm sure you know.
Noah Parker promoting new music and an upcoming album. Any thought on when the new album will be finished and available?
So finished is one thing, available is another. We're hoping finished by late August, I would say.
Okay,
and
that's coming up.
Early fall. Oh yeah, no, this isn't sort of just coming out of the water. This is mostly completed, I would say.
And so released
early fall.
Okay,
that's the hope.
And then a tour to follow. And will it be an international tour, perhaps?
Perhaps. It's obviously much more expensive. It's harder. It's a different lifestyle to do the international tour as opposed to East and West Coast and a little bit in between. But I'm open to anything.
And you're an independent artist?
I am.
And is it self-funded? Is there like a GoFundMe page or one of those?
There's not a GoFundMe page. It's all self-funded, which is difficult and time-consuming, but it is what it is.
As a young singer-songwriter who's coming up, rising through the ranks right now and trying to make a mark, had you considered the TV show path? Because there's so many talented singer-songwriters who are on The Voice and The X Factor in the UK and soon to be American Idol here, and these are options to you.
They are options. People have come to me and said you should probably at least give these things a try on some level. But I always told them songwriting is my principal craft. What I want to be known for is a songwriter above, and I feel like you get pigeonholed a little bit. To no fault of anyone other than the fact that what you're doing on The Voice is singing and singing only, basically. Right. And I wanted to say my principal goal is to be a singer-songwriter, not just one facet of my abilities. But if the opportunity came along, it's not something I would thumb my nose
American
at.
Idol's coming back. It didn't hurt Carrie Underwood.
No, it did not.
All right, Noah Parker, would you do another song for us?
Yeah, absolutely. This guy is actually a mashup that I have yet to see before, so I thought it would be interesting. I don't know if you guys want to hear about it beforehand or be excited
well, you tell
as
me
it
whenever
unfolds.
You want to tell me. You want to save the story to the end?
I will save the story to the end.
I read the news today, oh boy, about a lucky man who made the grade. And though the news is rather sad, I just had to laugh. I saw the photograph of broken bottles under children's feet, of bodies strewn across a dead-end street. But I won't heed your battle call. Puts my back up against the wall, yeah. Sunday, bloody Sunday. Sunday, bloody Sunday, yeah. Sunday, bloody Sunday. I saw a film today, oh boy. The English army had just won the war. A crowd of people turned away, but I just had to look. Having read the book, I'd love to turn you on, yeah. Sunday, bloody Sunday. Sunday, bloody Sunday, yeah. Sunday, bloody Sunday. How long must we sing this song? How long? And how long must we sing this song? How long? 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 Till Sunday, bloody Sunday. Sunday, bloody Sunday, yeah. Sunday, bloody Sunday.
Woo. Noah Parker, thank you. Wow. So tell me about that song. How did that come to you? And I know there's lyrics in there that are very familiar, so...
So that is A Day in the Life by the Beatles, smashed together with Sunday Bloody Sunday by U2.
Right.
And it was a throwback to the very first concert I ever went to, which was U2 at Madison Square Garden, where they did multiple Beatles tunes as covers. And I said it just melded so well. They didn't do A Day in the Life. So I wanted to do a homage to my first ever concert, which featured both of my favorite artists, two of my favorite artists.
That's pretty gutsy there to take on U2 and the Beatles in one song.
A little bit. But the alternative is that you're also dealing with the best material you could possibly get.
True. So, I mean, you speaking of, influences from Europe and England, both of those bands, one from Ireland, one from London, you had... a relative in your family who was instrumental in the development of your career, who was also a part of the music business and made a mark in the 80s with the Fix. One thing leads to another and quite a few other hits. So, yeah, Uncle and the Fix, how did that play into your music?
Well, he was sort of a driving influence, strangely enough, vocally for me. He was an unbelievable vocalist. I mean, if you put on any 80s throwback records, you're going to hear One Thing Leads to Another, which is an amazing song that he wrote. And in the beginning, when my voice was still very much, people have a false view of coming out of the womb with a voice like Aretha Franklin. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
You have to develop it. You have to work at it. But the problem is nobody tells you that when you're singing in your bedroom and it doesn't sound particularly amazing to anyone. But
Except you.
Well, not even to myself. I'm a harsh critic. But he came along and said, "There's something unique there. There's something powerful there, and you don't have to be Ed Sheeran. Well, not at the time, but you don't have to be John Mayer. You don't have to have this sweet, soulful. You can have anything as long as it's unique, authentic, and powerful to other people." So he pushed me forward with it, and I mean, I'm here today in some way, shape, or form because of him.
Did you play your music for him?
I did.
And
I did.
Did you get his approval or stamp of approval?
He's one of those guys that would never, ever touch somebody else's art. He would say that's great, but that has to be yours. He's one of those types of people, which I respect. I really do. It means that he didn't want to, because at that moment he was my uncle and a British rock star. Of course, I'm going to listen to whatever advice he has to give me. But if he told me to do that with your songs, I would have changed it just to placate him to some extent.
So apart from John Mayer and Ed Sheeran, who inspires you? Who are you listening to
These days?
Yep. I mean, throughout your youth and to today.
Throughout my youth, I listened to a lot of classic rock. The Allman Brothers, and I have to give a shout out to Greg Allman, was the reason I picked up a guitar in every single way. The first solo I ever learned was Blue Sky.
Wow.
The Allman Brothers were a tremendous influence on a lot of my music. But today, I think Shawn Mendes is doing really, really interesting, great stuff. George Ezra is doing, if you've ever heard of him.
Sure, Budapest.
Yeah. I think he's doing terrific work. I think he's coming out with another, I hope he's coming out with another album.
Sure he will.
Because I really, really like what he's doing. And then there's One Republic is having a sort of resurgence to some extent, but Ryan Tedder is fantastic. And if you take one strip down Google Lane, you'll find that he's written like half the pop songs you've ever heard of.
Right.
That would be a career goal.
So, as far as your songwriting goes, you mentioned that, you were humming in a bathroom when a song came to you. Is the process that the melody comes first and then the lyrics, or?
Always.
Always.
Except in rare occasions. And people naturally, I have other friends who've, done some songwriting to some extent. And if you try to do both simultaneously, you'll just kind of get overwhelmed. You have to come up with the melody first and then the lyrics. You can get great lyrics, but really what people are listening for in music is to be matched with a strong melody and to all have it come together as a cohesive thing. So it has to be first.
Wow, that's an interesting observation or thought from somebody who's really been motivated by words through poetry and whatnot to come to the melody first.
It's true. But I would never change a lyric because the melody worked better, or vice versa, I don't think. And this is part of the reason why songs that come out in 15 minutes are the best, because you don't think about them.
Right.
They're true expressions of, I had to get this thought, this emotion, whatever it is, out immediately.
Did you dig up any songs when you were 11 to finish or change?
Unfortunately, yes, I did.
Oh, really?
Yes,
the new album's going to have something when you were a young kid?
Yes and no. I mean, it's gone through so many iterations at this point that it is a different song. But it is interesting to go back to poetry from when you were 14, 15 and say, there was a good idea in there somewhere. That kid didn't know how to express it.
Right. And the man does.
Hopefully.
So, picking songs for your debut album, that's kind of a very difficult challenge because this is it. This is the debut. This is the Hey World, meet Noah Parker.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a bit of a process that has to involve other people is the long and the short answer. You can't have, if it were up to me, I'd record 200 songs because that's my entire library that I've written so far, good, bad, and the ugly. But fortunately, my producer, my manager, other people in my life, who are music gurus.
Rein it in, Noah.
Exactly. Well, my dad as a jazz piano player, Sai as a rock god on some level. I go to them and say, does this have something special? Are my emotions coming across properly with the song? So I have 4 or 5 people to tell me,
you've got input.
Yeah, this one's great. Leave that one by the side of the road.
So what's the story that we can expect from the debut album? Is there a commonality in the songs? Is there going to be something you're trying to put out there, a message on the album?
I never even if there was, I never like to say this is absolutely what I'm trying to say, because music is such, even though you're hearing somebody else's poetry, it's such a personal experience that I don't know necessarily if I'd want to hear exactly what inspired John Mayer's Room for Squares. I have emotions for myself that it inspired, which makes it great art. But I don't think, that was about Susie What's-Her-Face from Minnesota.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, okay.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. We got one more song?
It's a played song is what I was told.
Oh,
okay. I could do the performance of it as well.
If you have another song that you can sing, that would be great. If you'd rather not, that's fine.
It's a it's a retune situation.
Oh,
whatever,
okay, go. Well,
whatever.
We can. Are we good? We're good on time. No, we're good on time. So we'll edit and clean this up.
No worries.
So, congratulations on the upcoming new album. I hope it's not going to be called Joshua Tree, right? I mean,
well, Joshua White album.
Joshua White album. There you go. And something certainly that resonates beyond Noah Parker. I know you're going to come out with something special.
I as a poet, it would behoove me to come up with something a little bit more artistic than Noah Parker.
And if people want to reach out to you and they want to get the album, they want to find out about Noah Parker, where do they go?
It's going to be on iTunes. It's going to be on Spotify. It's going to be on all the major streaming services. I also have a YouTube channel and a website directly.
And how do people find you on the social media?
At noahparkermusic.com or at the handle Noah Parker for Instagram and Facebook.
All right. Well, I enjoy your music, like your sound.
Thank you very much.
And I'm very excited to hear the album when it comes out. And please come back and visit with us.
Absolutely.
Next time you're in D.C. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Noah Parker, our guest today, and this is Border Crossings.